Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about The Root, an embarrassingly bad and over-the-top biased YouTube channel that usually focuses on hating on white people. Last time we covered them, they were chastising high-profile black celebrity men for dating hot white women. My previous video on the channel was about Donald Glover getting shit for this last month, and it's linked below if you want to catch up. But now, for today, we're taking a look at another video from The Root. This time, it's called America, the Land of Baby Prisons. Wow, looks like they're being just as sensational and emotionally manipulative as ever. Let's check this shit out.
Trump administration officials are sending babies as well as small children to what are called tender age shelters.
It's not clear how, when, or if families that are currently separated will in fact be reunited.
When will they be by their parents' side again?
Welcome to America, kids. Land of the free.
I'm sensing your sarcasm here, lady, but this is the land of the free. Believe it or not, in America, we have more rights and privileges than anywhere in the world. We've got freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and the right to bear arms, too. Even the best countries that are similar to America don't have all that freedom. Not even close. Australia still doesn't even have a First Amendment to protect their free speech, so they get censored and cracked down on all the time. Plus, I hear their internet's shit. And what about England, who has no gun rights whatsoever? You can't even walk out of the house with a butter knife in London, not without getting pulled over by Big Brother over there. And I even hear they have to get licenses for porn in that country. What the fuck? And don't even get me started on why Canada is a shithole. Those Canucks are still cucking to the Queen of England, for Christ's sake. So don't give me this bullshit about America not being the land of the free. It is, clearly. And the people you're showing in these news reports, they're criminals who were being locked up for breaking the law. And I'm really sorry they brought their kids into this. I really am. But what are we supposed to do with them? It's almost like they're suggesting anyone with kids should get away with breaking the law at this point, and that's absolutely absurd.
It's a good thing Trump signed an executive order to bring an end to the very family separation policy his administration created. But this is the same guy who said,
"We don't want people coming in from the Middle East through our border, using children to get through the lines. We don't want that."
Yeah, we don't want that. I don't see the problem with him saying we shouldn't want illegals to use children to get through the border. Sounds perfectly logical to me. Now, I know the Democrats love exploiting kids and that this whole video and the child separation narrative is all about that after all, but just because they want to use kids doesn't mean it's okay and it's right. It's wrong, actually, and we all know it. Oh, and that line before this Trump clip, this Root lady falsely claims that the Trump administration started this border policy. It didn't. Trump just signed an executive order to fix it, in fact. And what do his opponents say when he does that? They lie and say, so what? Trump fixed the problem he started. Even though this immigration policy was enacted by President Clinton in the 90s, who was a Democrat, by the way, and so was Obama, and neither of these Democrats faced criticism for enforcing this border policy either. Not once during both of their 8-year terms. But now, all of a sudden, for some reason it's Trump's fault 20 years later. Fucking priceless.
by now, your feed has been flooded with disturbing imagery of immigrant children being separated from their parents. To have your boy Donnie tell it, this border mess is the Democrats' fault.
It is your fault. As I said, Clinton created these laws years ago. And also, those pictures you showed of kids supposedly separated from their parents, those were all fucking fakes. This girl is the one from the Time magazine cover, which has already been debunked repeatedly. The father of that kid admitted that it had never been separated from its parents. So, it looks like we're only 1 minute into this Root video and we're already being showered with lies and propaganda. This child separation angle must be really hanging by a thread, man. Damn. If the left can't go 30 seconds without lying about it, I think it's got no legs left on her.
If the Democrats would sit down instead of obstructing, we could have something done very quickly.
Fake news! Y'all, this border policy isn't even how Trump says it is. Trump's punk-ass administration were the ones who decided to criminally prosecute all adults who cross the border illegally.
You say that like it's a bad thing. It's not. It's actually quite good. We want to prosecute people who commit crimes. Otherwise, they will just keep committing them. This is called negative reinforcement. People don't go out and steal cars every day because they know they will get arrested, fined, and in prison for it. Now, I know the Democrats are the anti-law and order party, but come on, people. Why would we not prosecute the criminals? That's what I want to know. This Root girl even said herself they're crossing the border illegally, and that means they will have to pay the price for committing that crime.
Back in April, good old Jeff Sessions announced a zero-tolerance policy on illegal immigration, specifically at the border. Then the following month, old Mexican food-loving and Mexican people-hating Kirstjen Nielsen's Department of Homeland Security made sure to refer all undocumented immigrants who cross the U.S. border to the Justice Department to face criminal prosecution.
Why are you slowing down and saying this dramatic? And why is your camera so out of focus? Regardless of the blurriness, something here is still clear. The Root is not a fan of laws being enforced. And our government making promises to do their jobs isn't something they like to hear either. It's weird and unexplained, but this is the stance the Root is taking. And I really wish they would give us some sort of reason why they want more illegal immigrants. I'm genuinely curious what their justifications would be. I'm sure it would be some sort of we're doing the right thing, virtue signaling bullshit though. And even those justifications are lies too, because we all know the real reason left-wingers want unlimited immigration is so they can get more votes in the soon coming 2018 midterm elections.
And when you're in federal jail awaiting trial, your child can't be there with you, which is why this separation happened.
As long as sis enjoys her tacos, though.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, their jokes are really bad. Sorry. And their implication is Trump staffers like Secretary Nielsen don't have a right to eat tacos for some reason. I guess because these illegals are crossing the Mexican border and they make tacos in Mexico, I guess? I don't know. Your guess on this is as good as mine.
Here's where it gets even more up and sprinkled with extra Trump on top. Orangina may no longer be separating families at the border, but he's still detaining them, including the children.
So baby prisons?
First of all, I don't know what the fuck she just said here. I think she's calling Trump Orange Arena or something. It's hard to understand and it's definitely not funny like any of their other jokes. And as for this baby prisons comment, I mean, come on. What the fuck are you talking about, lady? This is like the lowest of low for these people to stoop to, too. First, it wasn't enough to lie and say the kids are being kept in concentration camp-like facilities, like we heard on the news before. Other left-wingers have tried to make this claim, but they were quickly exposed as lying. The kids' facilities actually look like summer camps. Like Laura Ingraham said, we got pics of these kids playing fucking video games there right now. And now we got the Root raising the stakes on that already false premise as well. First, they lowered the kids' age even further. They're now babies, even though many of these kids are older and some are even teens or fully grown, but that's besides the point. Facts don't matter here. Not when the left is trying to exploit children for emotional manipulation. So that's why they're trying to make them younger and younger, so their claim can get better and better, I guess. And now they're also upgrading the facilities to prisons for even more added dramatic effect. Of course, these are all bullshit lies and propaganda tactics, as we've already gone over repeatedly. But even so, let's say this is all true for a minute. What exactly would this Root lady suggest we do then? People are trying to illegally cross our border into this great country every day. When we catch them, they go to jail. But the Root is suggesting if those criminals have kids, they should not go to jail or get arrested? So what then? We just start letting in any person who can walk into our country with a kid? I guess that's what they're saying, but I don't know if these idiots have thought this far ahead, but this would be a disaster too for dozens of reasons. First of all, we'd get more unskilled, uneducated immigrants with kids, and that's only going to further drain our country and its resources. That means it will get shittier here for all of us, all in an effort to help foreign criminals because they have kids. Plus, I don't get this whole thing where we pity people more because they have kids, but let's move past that part. Next, there's going to be more problems at the border. Every Mexican and their mother is going to start crossing with kids because they're going to find out they're not going to get arrested if they have them. And not all the people crossing with kids are going to be peaceful, happy families either. If we enact this proposed policy, bad people are going to start crossing with kids that might not even be their own. Sure, they might try and make their own and they might start raping and impregnating women to help get them in. Or, you know what? They might just start stealing other people's kids. Who knows? But I do know one thing. If all it takes is kids to get across the border and not get arrested, that's going to make things very dicey for the kids in Mexico. With this policy, all the children south of the border are going to be highly endangered once all the criminals know that they can just grab some random kid and cross the border freely with them. So, in conclusion, on this point, the Root doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and what they're suggesting could actually endanger more kids in the long run, which is exactly the opposite of this pro-kids, anti-child separation point they're trying to make.
America has always lacked humanity in its treatment of non-white people. Throughout slavery, children were ripped from their parents' arms to be sold to other slave masters, constantly and simultaneously breaking up the black family structure and spirit. In the 1890s, authorities made Native American families send their children to Indian boarding schools, where they were forced to shed their own culture and assimilate.
That's some nice looking black and white photography you got there. But I don't know if events that happened over 100 years ago are very relevant to this issue. We're talking about mostly Mexican and South American immigrants crossing our border illegally in 2018, current year. And like clockwork, within 2 minutes, this Root lady is bringing up black slaves and brown Native Americans from over 120 years ago. Damn, lady, get a grip. I know slavery is still a sore topic for you and all, and I can see you're still coming to grips with that, but bringing slavery up every chance you get isn't really helping. Maybe these anti anti-white, pro-criminal videos she's making is her way of coping with this. And I hear ya. You know, if my ancestors had been enslaved and embarrassed a few generations ago, I might feel a little salty about it too. Oh, wait a second. I'm part Irish, and guess what? I almost forgot. Like the impoverished people of many other nationalities, many Irish people emigrated from Ireland to the Americas in the 17th and 18th centuries as indentured servants, and a smaller number were forcibly banished into indentured servitude during the period of the English Civil Wars as well. Indentured servants often lived and worked under harsh conditions and were sometimes treated cruelly, so there is that. But the difference here is this. I almost forgot this was in my Irish history, in my ancestry, but this root lady has got slavery right on the top of her mind all the time, every day, and that's why she unironically brought it up here in today's story. People like this are fragile, sad, and embarrassing little losers who just can't get over it, get over something they were not a part of and no one they know was either, and they also can't resist bringing slavery up every chance they can get to get those precious, oh so sweet victim points. The fact of the matter is this: if your point needs black and white photography to be presented, it's probably not that relevant to what's going on today. Just saying.
And now here America is again indulging in its own racist habits, ripping children of undocumented immigrants from their parents' arms.
Did you guys see that? You may have missed it, but this video just time traveled from 1904 to 2018. And then ipso facto, bad shit happened in the past, so all white people are racist now and forever. That's the Roots argument here, and frankly, it's a little sad, juvenile, and kind of pathetic. I mean, first of all, not all of America had slaves, nor did very many take part in the oppression of the natives. So to bring up this small percentage of the country from over 100 years ago, well, it doesn't really reflect much upon our modern country and its people. Not very much at all. Certainly not in this all white people are guilty because of slavery way, in which the root implies. And if they can go into the past of our country and race in order to shame us in the present, then why can't we do the same thing? I mean, every family and country and race has some dirt in its past, of course, but since the root wants to play this game and attack white people, let's go ahead and give them a taste of their own medicine. For starters, blacks enslaved people too. A lot, actually. There were probably just as many black slaveholders as white ones across the world. And that's not even getting to the fact that it was their fellow Africans who were capturing and enslaving other Africans in order to sell them in the Atlantic slave trade. So one might argue that African blacks have just as much blood on their hands here as the Americans. And that's not even the worst of what the Africans have had in their past. Black people have been warring and raping and genociding each other on their continent far before Europeans even got there. And they've been doing it much later too, almost up until the present. In fact, there's still slavery in Africa, and there were also things like the Rwandan genocide just 24 years ago in 1994. This genocide was when the Hutus carried out a big mass slaughter of the Tutsi tribe, almost 1 million dead, murdered, and taken out in cold blood, and that was just over 2 decades ago. But back to America for now. Let's talk about the transatlantic slave trade again, because the US was only getting a very small percentage of those slaves. The large majority of African slaves were either sent to Brazil or South America, or assorted islands in the Caribbean like Haiti. But I'm sure you won't hear any left-wingers or SJWs chastising those nations for their parts in the slave trade. In fact, those people and their descendants, they're some of the ones who are trying to cross over into our country illegally now. But the root doesn't want to attack them for their past history with slavery. No, they want to let them into America and get away with crimes and come over here and get a free ride, all paid for by the white man's taxes.
Just look at these cages, also being called enclosures, that they're keeping these kids waiting in at a central processing center in McAllen, Texas. No comment necessary. Let's look at the tweets.
No comment necessary because you got nothing good to say. She's basically saying, hey, look at these kids behind the fences. That's sad, so I'm right and Trump's wrong. But really, you're not right at all, honey. And it's going to take a lot more than some fake propaganda pics to make your point here.
The most insidious part of this all, by ripping these children away from parents, Trump is setting them up to fall through the cracks, possibly sex trafficking, abuse, long-term medical issues, lasting trauma and mental issues, early death. Make no mistake, it is by design.
How is this Trump's fault though? He didn't make the law, and he's not personally enforcing it at the border. Also, let's not forget, the real people responsible for those kids is their parents. And it was their parents' choices that led them to being detained as well. No one made their parents have sex, get pregnant, and have kids. And no one made those parents take their kids with them to commit a crime. Yet, somehow, they say this is all Trump's fault, of course, even though it's clearly not. This is like saying if a parent robs a grocery store with a baby in their cart, they should get away with that crime. And going further, it's not even this criminal parent's fault that they are a thief. It's the owner of the company that owns the grocery store's fault, according to this insane, baseless, liberal logic.
How do you reunite an infant who cannot communicate who their parent is with a parent who is not allowed to access them because they have been sent to separate states or the parent has been deported. This is a recipe for permanent separation.
Would permanent separation really be that bad though? These parents are criminals after all. They decided to have kids in a shitty country where they couldn't support them. And now they're doing another dumb thing by committing a crime and crossing the border illegally with their kids with them. Sounds to me like those are some pretty shitty parents, if you ask me. And those kids, well, they'll probably be better off without them.
First thought this morning, it takes a really shitty person to see these children in cages or baby prisons and just say, the law is the law. Let's not forget how many laws we've had in history that were not only unjust, but racist and sexist.
And this is a prime example of the majority of the liberals in their voter base. They are easily manipulated by propaganda, clearly. All it takes is a few references to babies, cages, and saying, what about the children? And then you can get Democrats on board with anything. They're so wrapped up in their looks and appearing to be virtuous that they never stop to think, hey, wait, maybe these pics are fakes. Or, wait, if we let every illegal with a kid come right in, we could have an even bigger problem.
These people are more upset seeing black athletes kneeling than they are hearing 4-year-olds screaming in terror. Just think about that.
Okay, I'll think about it. In one situation, we got super rich and pampered athletes who are bitching about fake racism and trying to protest Trump by kneeling and being disrespectful to our country and flag at our football games, which we try and watch for fun, not for messages and political stances. Next, we got illegal criminals trying to shield themselves at the border by bringing crying babies with them. Plus, the Democrats are also lying and putting out fake pictures and propaganda to try and help them, to try and help the immigrants get in, and ipso facto, they'll eventually vote blue. With that said, this sounds like two totally different, almost uncomparable situations, but I would say the NFL kneeling was more newsworthy last season because it was a new development in a different controversial space. Illegal immigrants, however, and them crossing the border with kids, that has been happening every day for decades. So while it's still a little sad that these kids have shitty enough parents to put them through this, it's also old news and something we just have to live with at this point. The only reason child separation is being made into this media circus now is because the left wants to exploit those children in order to not only shame Trump, but to also secure more legal voters in the coming elections.
To date, there are over 2,300 kids who were separated from their parents at the border since this new zero tolerance policy began, and over 11,000 minors that have been placed in the unaccompanied children's program. For all you All Lives Matter champions out there, do these children and their parents' lives count? Or do you just mean all who are white?
No, we mean all lives matter if you're an innocent, upstanding person who obeys the law. But if you're a criminal with no respect for authority, then yeah, you're going to get arrested when you commit crimes. And unfortunately, if those crooks have kids, then they will have to be put away somewhere too. I'm sorry, it sucks, I know, but those kids are definitely better off in our summer camp style detainment centers over the shithole countries they came from, alongside their criminal parents. Look, I'm not trying to sound too crass here either. I care about people and children as much as the next guy. And if America had enough room and jobs and resources to house more immigrants, then I would say, let's try and do it. Let's help people when we can, but right now, we can't. And if we keep up this unlimited and unrestrained immigration, if we keep doing what the Democrats want, our country will turn to shit too. It's a tough decision, but I'm gonna go ahead and be an adult and protect our country first. Thank you very much.
If these were actual animals in cages, you'd be outraged.
That's it. Let's put the kids in kitten costumes.
White people love cats. Let's judge these characters.
Before that though, I just want to note this woman's obsession with white people. Every video and every minute on this The Root channel, all they do is hate on whites. I guess they think it's justified because there was slavery 150 years ago, but I'm not buying that excuse anymore. These people are just anti-white racists, plain and simple, who probably have inferiority complexes about it too.
Let's judge these characters. Last time I checked, seeking asylum is not a crime. And crossing the border illegally is a misdemeanor. You know what else is a misdemeanor? Making false reports. White people who call 911 on black people living their lives. Susan.
More unnecessary white people hate. And about the people trying to get asylum, well, that's actually a very specific and limited thing you can get. Most of these illegals are trying to claim asylum because they think they can lie and try and cheat the system and say the right things to get it. But they're not actually really politically oppressed though. And they're not escaping oppressive regimes either. They just want more money and better jobs in America. That's economic migration. And it's not the same as political asylum at all. That's something you have to get a visa for and work really hard to get all the paperwork done to get it.
Listen. These people are trying to live safely and have a chance at a better life for their families. They're not here to endure the torture of detention centers or what they should be called child prisons.
No, they should be called places where kids have to stay if their parents committed the crime of crossing the border illegally. And there's no torture going on in these camps, lady. They're actually being clothed, fed, and kept warm. Some even get to socialize, hang out, and play video games too, so when you say they're like child prisons, well, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Donald Trump is guilty of making America hate again, or maybe he's just perpetuating the hate that this country was built upon. And I sentence all of racist America to being detained in cages, separated from your families, and treated like you're less than a human being.
Does that include you, big girl? Because you're being rather racist and anti-white yourself. So, by your logic, you should be separated from your family and kids. That is if you actually find a partner to put up with your annoying ass, let alone get you pregnant. And that's also if you didn't decide to abort that baby in your womb first. Funny how the left are the ones crying about baby prisons at the border this week, when on another day they're defending Planned Parenthood and telling everyone to get abortions willy-nilly. It's almost like they don't really care about kids or children or babies at all. The only reason liberals even pretend to care about the children is so they can try and emotionally manipulate people into joining their side. In the end, we got another abomination of a video from The Root right here, which is just as anti-white and anti-law and order as ever. And all for what? I mean, do we really think these people care about kids at the border? Not a fucking chance. If they did, this issue would have came up years ago. The only reason the child separation narrative is being paraded around now is because lefties like The Root want to try and use it to shame Trump, and to shame white people and America a little bit too in there. And also, of course, the Democrats will happily take as many illegal immigrants into their districts as they can. That way they will have them illegally voting blue by midterm elections, which are coming very soon. What do you guys think? Is America the land of baby prisons? Should we ignore the laws and let illegals come in if they have kids with them? Or does that open us up to a whole new series of problems? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.